Good morning, SENA.
AIDA, and I hope you're well.
Yes, very well, thank you.
How is Malawi this morning?
Malawi is fine. Malawi is fine, thank you. I'm from Senegal, but I'm based in Malawi, working here in Malawi.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're originally from Senegal. You've been working in Malawi.
Yes, yes. And just to say that I'm a disabled woman in Africa program manager.
Okay.
And also I'm the gender and disability inclusion advisor.
Okay. Thank you. We'll make the correction because we are addressing you as executive secretary. But first, tell us about this organization called Women with Disabilities in Africa. Exactly what do you do?
Yes. Okay, so disabled women in Africa, okay, is a network of women and girls from West to North, Central, Eastern, and Southern Africa. So it is led by women with disabilities. So our work is high advocacy level, meaning influencing policies in Africa.
Okay, and how long have you been doing this?
Okay, so how we are doing it, it is to influence policies at continental level, to make sure that we include issues affecting women and girls with disabilities. So we are targeting the African Union Commission, the Pan-African Parliament based in Midrand, as well as African governments.
And so far, have you seen any successes when it comes to these interactions with the African Union and also with leadership of Africa? Do you see them actually agreeing to most of the proposals you are making to them and incorporating them in their policies?
Yes, let me just give you an example about the Pan-African Parliament. The Pan-African Parliament is drafting a model law on gender equality and equity. And our role, our advocacy effort is to make sure that they include issues, as I mentioned, affecting women and girls with disabilities, like gender-based violence, education, employment, social protections, access to justice, etc. So I think that the biggest achievement is that we made sure that they include those issues affecting women. So our needs reflect on this document. And just to mention that the model law, as you know, model law, it is derived from the protocol of Maputo, the protocol of Maputo. So it is for the states to harmonize their policies on this model law on disability, or not on disability, but the gender equity and equality. And also we have the model law on disability. This one also is the biggest achievement, I can say. And yes, because I think that it is the first time that we just have this kind of model law on disability, which is very important. Again, it is also for the government to harmonize their policies on this model law. And also I would like to talk about the protocol to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, on the rights of persons with disabilities in Africa, commonly known as the African Disability Protocol, ADP. So this ADP was adopted by the African Union in 2008. And we have been advocating for its ratification to have 15 countries ratifying this protocol so it can enter in force. Just to mention that Ghana did not yet ratify this protocol. So why this African Disability Protocol is important? It is built on the rights enshrined in the UN Convention on the right of persons with disabilities. So this protocol has an African drive and thrust. and its ratification by Ghana will be a major success in spearheading and driving the rights of persons with disabilities, specifically in the national context also. And just to say that the protocol reflects a legal instrument from an African perspective and approach for ownership. The main aims of the protocol are, just to mention two objectives. First, it is to provide an African context to rights of persons with disabilities, and also to harmonize the Africa disability laws with other international treaties. So we encourage the Republic of Ghana to ratify the protocol, just to inform our listeners once again that this law has come into force. Thank you, SENA.
Well, so you need Ghana to also do same, ratify the African Disability Protocol.
Exactly.
We
really need.
I was going to ask you whether you've had any conversations with the Ghanaian government, not only this new one, but the ones in the past, over doing this.
Yes, as I mentioned that this protocol, has been adopted by EU member states in 2018. And the organizations of persons with disabilities are advocating. They are very aware of this protocol, and they are advocating also at country level, at national level, for its ratification by the Republic of Ghana. And also, just to say that this initiative also is supported by Promo Africa. Promo Africa is the Ghana chapter of the network of journalists to promote the rights of persons with disabilities. And under the leadership of its chairperson, Seth Amawa Adi, currently based in Germany, they are working a lot on promoting a model of disabilities that redefines persons with disabilities as full members of society who have important contribution to make to their families. So, organizations of persons with disabilities are well aware of the importance of this protocol, and I believe that also they are talking to the government about its importance.
But there's something you are happy about, women with disabilities in Africa. There's one thing you're happy about that we have done. It seems the move by this government to make tertiary education free excites you.
We are very, very happy in Africa about this important measure, decision, initiative. So firstly, I would like to express really my sincere gratitude for the opportunity to discuss this crucial initiative. Indeed, the provision of quality education for persons with disabilities in Africa is of paramount importance, especially for girls with disabilities. It is essential not only for empowering individuals with disabilities, but also for fostering inclusive societies. So access to quality education enables persons with disabilities, particularly women, girls with disabilities, to realize their full potential, contribute meaningfully to their communities, and participate in the broader socio-economic development of their countries. And I think that this kind of initiative, we can really mention Ghana as an example, as a reference in West Africa. And as you must know, despite significant progress in recent years, unfortunately, challenges remain in ensuring equitable access to education for all, particularly in the African context, where limited resources, infrastructure barriers, and especially societal stigma continue to hinder the inclusion of persons with disabilities in educational system. So really, Ghana addressing these barriers is critical for achieving sustainable development goals and human rights goals across the continent. And really, in this regard, I commend the government of Ghana for its commitment to fostering an inclusive society, Substantial progress has been achieved in aligning national policies and legislations with international and regional human rights frameworks, demonstrating a robust dedication to protecting the rights and well-being of individuals with disabilities. So we are very, very happy about this initiative.
Is it the first you're seeing in Africa?
Pardon?
Is it the first in Africa when it comes to persons with disability having free access to tertiary education?
Okay, Ghana is not the first country in Africa. We have other countries like Mauritius, we have DRC, we also have Kenya, so just to mention a few countries. But in West Africa, this kind of initiatives, I think that I can say that Ghana is the first country to take this kind of initiatives. Because, if you know, in most Francophone Africa countries, in West Africa, yes, education is free, but we don't have, this kind of initiative targeting persons with disabilities. And I think that through our discussion, we will also raise the issues of implementation. Yes, it's good to have this kind of initiative, but how to implement it? How to develop strategies to accommodate the different needs of persons with disabilities. And you know that we have different types of disabilities. It's good to have free education for tertiary, for university, but also it's good to see how it can be accessible to persons with disabilities.
Okay. But before we even go there on how this should be implemented to ensure that there's access, let me first ask how big an issue cost is, because they are taking away the cost aspect of education when it comes to tertiary education. How serious an issue is cost to as a barrier to education of persons living with disabilities?
Okay, the cost, yes, there is a cost, but it also depends on the willingness of government. And I think that we need to think about partnership. Partnership is very important. How to secure enough funding through government to implement the dispositions of maybe this kind of free education. I think that yes, before just talking about the cost, I think that I would like just to mention, to talk about what kind of benefits. Let me just start, but what this tertiary education, free tertiary education, offers as benefit. Okay, first, it is linked to just your question. It removes financial barriers. You know that financial barriers often prevent persons with disabilities pursuing higher education. And also, this initiative encourage more students with disabilities to enroll in universities and colleges. And also, let me just mention the economic empowerment, because also this kind of initiative is aligned with the economic empowerment. How? It is to equip persons with disabilities with skills and qualification to secure better jobs. It is also to reduce dependency. It will reduce dependency on family and social welfare programs. So you see, you can evaluate the cost as per your question. It also enhances entrepreneurship opportunities. So this initiative also promotes equal opportunities for persons with disabilities in education and employment. And employment is very, very important because it gives a kind of autonomy to persons with disability not to depend on social aid. And it improved also the quality of life. High education leads to better career prospects and improved earning, enhances self-confidence and independence, as I mentioned earlier. And also it increases the skilled workforce, including professionals with disabilities, promotes diversity and innovation in workplaces. Because I mentioned also about stigma that prevent persons with disability to access education or employment. So it also encourages inclusive policies in various sectors benefiting the whole society. I would like just to say that disability is a cross-cutting issue. It means that all ministries, departments, agencies are concerned. So I think that in terms of cost, we need also to partner with the private sector. I think that the private sector, in terms of infrastructure, can just really support the government work in terms of cost. And also it is to allocate enough budget. It is to allocate enough budget for persons with disabilities. It is very, very, very important, I think, that we just see how we can work with the private sector, because it's quite important, and also international donors to implement this initiative.
Well, and now let's come to the implementation, because you're just talking about it from the basic level in Ghana. We have something called free compulsory universal basic education for all children. Mm-hmm. Then we have the free senior high school, of course. And then now we have free tertiary education for persons living with disabilities. You are saying that just because it is free doesn't mean persons living with disabilities will necessarily have access to it. What do we need to do in this regard to ensure that the implementation is not only about finance, but also ensuring that persons living with disability take full advantage of it?
Yes, absolutely. Let me just talk about some kind of challenges, and also what we really need, how we can just address it. Because it's, unfortunately, free education, yes, it's a good initiative, but what about the physical accessibility? And you see in Ghana, for instance, many schools and educational institutions are not physically accessible to students with disabilities. It is a reality. This includes a lack of ramps, elevators, or appropriate classroom layouts for students who use wheelchair or mobility aid. So you see that in terms of implementation, we need to address physical accessibility. And also, we have inadequate infrastructure and resources. There is often a lack of specialized learning materials. It implies cost, such as braille, textbooks, sign language interpreters, or assistive technology for students with sensory, intellectual, or learning disabilities. We need also to address this component, this area. And also, we have another challenge, which is very important, attitudes and stigma. No matter how policies are good or accessibilities are in place, adequate resources are allocated, but if there is discrimination, stigma, and negative attitudes towards persons with disabilities, this can prevent them from enrolling in school or participating fully in educational activities. So teachers and peers may hold, let's say, we are in Africa, misconceptions about the abilities of students with disabilities, leading to exclusion or low expectation. And just an example, in our advocacy work, we know that women and girls with disabilities, they are facing many challenges. Even about education, if we put it in the African context, I mean that in our cultural beliefs, women or girls should not go to school. So we really need also to address these attitudes and the stigmas. And also there is a lack of how to say, a lack of trained teachers. Many teachers lack the training and resources to effectively teach students with disabilities. Psychologically, they are not prepared. They don't know about disability issues. And so specialized instruction, such as differentiated teaching methods, understanding of specific disabilities. We have different type of disabilities. Some persons can have two types of disabilities, and inclusion strategies may not be part of teacher preparation programs. So you see, this also, the government should address it through a strategy. We have financial barriers. Education for persons with disabilities often requires extra financial resources. We need to be aware of it, such as for assistive technology, transportation, or personal assistance. Some persons with disabilities, they need assistance. They can't go by themselves, so they need to have personal assistant. Families also may not have the financial means to support these needs, limiting access to quality education. Because yes, it's good to have free education to university. But what about families? I think that families is a foundation. It starts at family level, because if the person with disability is from a poor family, how can they just meet their daily needs, like clothing, food, health? Because health, also quality health, access to quality health is very important. So, it is not only having access to free education, but I think that there are a lot we need to take into consideration. And limited awareness and advocacy. This is really mainly our work. Our work is really focused on high-level advocacy work, influencing policies. It's good to have policies, but to have act by parliament is very important. So the government, we can make the government accountable for the decision or initiative they are taken. So limited awareness and advocacy, this is what we are facing in many African regions. It's not only in Ghana. There is a lack of awareness about the rights of students with disabilities. We talk in general about persons with disabilities, women with disabilities, gender-based violence, but what about students with disabilities? This is what we call targeted advocacy efforts. Because there is a lack really of awareness about the rights of students with disabilities and limited advocacy for inclusive education policies. That is why we are really happy about this very important initiative about free education, so students, they can have access to university. So this can result in underreporting of challenges and fewer efforts to improve educational access. And I think that I'm going to conclude. Let me mention a few areas that we can consider as barriers: social and emotional challenges. In Africa, we tend to forget. We think that emotional challenges, social challenges doesn't exist. We are strong. We are surrounded by family, by friends. No, persons with disability also may face bullying, isolation, or lack of social interaction in educational setting. This can negatively affect their mental health, self-esteem, and overall education experience. And also inaccessible curriculum. The curriculum may not be designed with accessibility in mind. For instance, materials may not be available in alternative format like audio, large print. For short-sighted people, and activities may not be adapted to meet the diverse needs also of students with disabilities. And and also transportation barriers. Students with disability may face difficulty in getting to school due to the lack of accessible transport options, especially in rural and underserved areas, because we tend to forget students from rural areas. And finally, legal and policy gaps. In some places, there may be insufficient laws of policies to ensure the rights of persons with disabilities to higher education. So where policies exist, they may not be effectively implemented or enforced. So I think that to conclude, I just answer to your question with legal and policy gaps. SENA.
AIDA, thank you very much for making time to speak to us.
My pleasure.
Well, that's AIDA, sir, and very educative having this conversation with her on the matter of free tertiary education for persons